guys, and welcome to another episode of Woke by Accident Podcast, a weekly chat about socially conscious topics impacting the culture. We are excited to have our co-host, Sambaza, host and creator of the Sambaza Podcast, hailing from the Republic of Kenya. He has garnered 3 nominations for Best African Diasporan Podcast by the APVA. In addition, he has also been nominated for Best Blog by the Texas Creator Awards. And since 2023, he has been a featured presenter at Afros and Audio Podcast Festival and recently participated at the 2025 Podfest. Welcome, Sambaza.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you. How you doing?
Hey, pretty hanging in there. Hanging in there.
I'm glad to hear that. How's everything else other than the week? It's been a crazy week for me, but I'm blessed. We're here. Yeah,
For
we missed the
sure.
Wednesday yesterday, guys, because I had a birthday celebration, so I couldn't show up yesterday. But we're here today.
Yes, birthday wishes to the kiddo.
Oh
All
yeah,
right.
yeah.
Absolutely. So we are here. We have no guests today, but we wanted to bring you guys a great episode, and we're doing a little bit of checking in, catching up, mental health checks, and current events. All right, and so that's what we're gonna do.
Yeah, it's gonna be one of those days we just share. Um, I'm just happy to have these conversations where just the two of us have this talk and just to shoot the breeze, talk about what's going on in podcasting. I mentioned the kiddos and my monthly challenge for the African podcasters that I looked into. I think one podcaster per day for 30 days, and then I do recaps every week and at the end of the week regarding every 7 of the podcasts that I've done per that week, and then after that I'll finish off with a blog plus um, with a blog and a final episode, and I might combine all the episodes together so that it makes a bigger video, a longer video, and then maybe it'll spark interest with the podcasting community. The reason why I'm doing this specifically to that is that I'm interested in that particular market for now. Remember, you keep saying Pan African, so I have to put in that Pan African uh, word to mouth and paper.
For sure. And let me ask you this. So, if you all didn't catch that, Sambaza has been doing a challenge on his podcast and his content where he is spotlighting a different Pan African or African podcast every day. And he is reviewing it and making content. And if you have tapped in with some of Sambaza's content on, for example, IG and things like that, he's been sharing the challenge that he's been working on. Are these mostly like independent podcasts, or what would you describe it?
So the first thing is it has to be audio. Two, I'm trying to capture as many as I can from the African perspective, from the African continent. Although some countries have Portuguese and there's Portuguese, there's Ethiopian speak Amharic, and I noticed that I'll talk about this in length because there's a language barrier, and
Mm,
that's one of the issues. But it has to feature from Africa, and then audio. After that, I try to search. I listen to two. If not, if it's a long one, I'll listen to one. But if it's short, I'll listen to two. But there's another
mhm.
twist to one of them. But after that, I put you on the social and I do a B-roll of it and I highlight you the podcaster and let people
Mhm.
know about it. One thing is you cannot be a celebrity podcast because if you're a celebrity podcast, you already hit the market. My intention is to have the person who is out there doing what they're doing without not a huge following. I don't know how
Mhm.
what a following is, but the community is not a well. I don't look at how many they have in terms of the community, but I look at it as person who is not blown up like they're part of the top 25 or top 100
Right.
podcasts in Africa or in their country. You have to be like maybe below, not obscure. Some of them are obscure, and some of them are just just somebody who's done a few podcasts here and there. That's what
Okay.
it is.
So
So
independent.
yeah, independent, pretty much independent indie.
Yeah.
Yeah, indie podcasters who are not in a network.
No,
That,
that's good. That's awesome. And look, as independent podcasters, we definitely could use their support. And I think that's a cool, way to shine the light on, additional content creators, So, especially coming from the panel that you were just a part of with the other content creators from different parts of Africa, this is kind of a nice way to swing that, pendulum.
And I'm not a big time podcast listener. I'll be honest with you guys.
Hmm.
And this has actually got me interested in listening to more podcasts and deriving a lot of content just by listening to all the content that I've seen. Imagine it's 30 podcast
Hmm.
episodes, and some of not even 30, let's say about 60 podcast episodes I have listened to
Right.
so far. So that's a whole much of knowledge I've gathered in, and you all
Mhm.
learn. And we're supposed to do
Right.
a review at the end of there's supposed to be a collaboration where we do a review,
Mhm.
and that's something in the works. But the main thing is I'm trying to highlight people who are out there on the continent and try to get in and have some type of bridging the gap, so we all have a conversation later on. And then with with the other podcasts that we have here in the diaspora, the ones we did, you did mention them. I think that also helps us highlight our collective to
Mhm.
say, okay, we're here as well. So shout
Nice.
out to AfriPods for
Yes.
for inviting us to do that thing. And did I do the affirmation? I don't think I did the affirmation today.
Let's yeah, so before we pivot into our mental health check-in officially, Sambaza will share an affirmation as we want to continue the affirmations. Yeah.
So the affirmation for today is saying, I'm capable, resilient, and worthy of achieving my goals. Each step I take brings me closer to my best self. How about that? Pretty cool, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely good to hear those type of statements after the kind of week has been going. So,
For me, it resonates, in what I'm doing right now and my
mhm.
goals for the year. I hope this is what is keeping you going with this affirmation like this, Jen, because I think by the end of the year. Oh, remember we have that jar thing that we're
Yes.
doing? How is it going for you?
No, I have been adding to it. I don't have a whole lot, but there's some things in there, so I'll be ready to share.
So that's part of it. I think we'll have our goals that we have achieved in there. I haven't added this podcast challenge part in there, but I think it's going to be one of the additions to it. And yeah, I think at the end of the year we should have quite a bit of things to talk about when we get together for the
For
Christmas.
sure.
Yeah. Okay. So
I
let's do the
agree.
check-in. Let's go on with the check-in.
All right.
If you want to check in with me, you go first.
Okay, so this time we are going to do a mental health check in, and this is open to our live listeners. If you are present, if not, and reflecting, you think about the week that you've had, even if you are catching this on the replay. And then, take a minute. How are you feeling this week? Any personal wins or challenges that really, kind of made you pause? What's been on your mind? We kind of want to take a minute and do a little mental health check in. You want me to share?
Oh,
Yeah.
by the way,
So, uh-huh.
Jen, tell the guys, tell them that they can also put in these comments because we'll see them and we'll respond and
Yes.
acknowledge them. So if you,
Yeah. Yeah, even if you're coming upon this episode or this content after the fact, whenever you catch it, you can definitely share your thought about this particular segment. We, just want to, reflect on how the week has been going, whichever part of the week it is. We're not going to necessarily say where we are in the week, but just, how have things been going? Any particular challenge or personal win that has, given you pause or made you reflect, maybe kind of put a battery in your back, or something to that nature. So, yeah, it's actually been, a little trying day, um, or trying week, ready for the weekend so that I can, recharge and, reset, if you will. So, but I'm not gonna, be too down about it. As many things I, in my head am, plaguing myself about. Is some people out there really struggling, and so I try not to complain, even though I'm feeling not 100%. I'll, be honest and say that. But some people are really going through, and so I, definitely, um, bend and, pause to that and just, breathe. You know what I mean? Sometimes you just have to breathe and yeah, and be thankful for how, good as it is. So,
Right. And for me, it's been sort of like a up and down week. But all I'm going to say is I take the challenges of the week and look at the positives. And I usually get a lot of I hear there's something called positive negativity, where you say everything is positive and then it becomes too much of a positive, looking at everything in a positive aspect. It
mhm,
can be toxic at sometimes. But I think I look at it in the most uh, altruistic way, whereby I tend to want to feel that the world is going to be a good place by the end of the week. If something bad is happening, I say, you know what? Just like the way the sun rises in the east, is going to set in the west. It'll start off another thing altogether, and
mhm,
hopefully the next day gives you something great. And I think the worst part in a human being is to lose hope. If you
mhm,
ever lose hope, and this is a journey that I've figured out myself, is once you lose hope, there's nothing left in you. And as a human being, you have to have hope in whatever you do, because hope is what makes you wake up in the morning and saying, you know what, I'm going to have a good day today. Hope is what you're going to say, look, my business was down, like Jen, you say, when you're selling, I didn't sell as much as I wanted to today, but tomorrow morning when I wake up, I'm starting a fresh day. When I turn on the camera, hopefully, again, hopefully I will get more people to bite in on whatever I'm trying to sell. And
right, right.
that's it. Yeah.
True, true, true. So, yeah, just, yeah, put things in perspective. So, yeah, that's a good share. Thank you for that share.
I hope we're making money too with what we're selling.
Who, me?
Yeah.
Look, a little bit. Look, I'm over here trying to get
We're
ready
working.
for tax time and,
Oh,
get
yeah.
stuff together so we can, try to make it better for next go round. But yeah, definitely. And there's some personal goals that I set with that. I wasn't even thinking about the side hustle with my little, challenges or what have you. But I actually did a show today because I had the day off. I'll share, my dog had to have surgery. So my poor doggy.
How's the dog?
Huh?
How's the dog?
She tore her dog equivalent to an ACL.
Oh,
So, yeah. So she is, going through, and I'm still really grieving, and all the things. And then we had a really bad storm here, and even though we didn't have like anything bust through the windshield, it was still some damage, and we gotta get that taken care of. And so, you know yeah, so I'm kind of dealing with some of that stuff, and it's just like
but
but yeah, so
there's hope. There's hope that
it
it'll be.
is. It is. Look, it's some people, like, especially with that storm, it's people who had tree trunks bust through their house. So, I'm, talking about addressing some shingles and, be preventative for future storms so that I don't have a tree trunk come through the roof, you know what I mean? But some people actually did, you know what I mean? I have, some ladies that I do exercising with where their apartments got hit real bad and they have to be in a hotel and, everything's, clothes and things ruined and items and I can't even imagine if that happened so I'm like I said, I try not to complain, but sometimes you just have to pause and breathe through what you are dealing with.
And I think when you say that about the storm,
Mhm.
it's funny. When you have this Google thing on your we have this Google Nest, and it shows pictures.
Yeah.
And what about the same time last year there was a storm, a really major storm, and I was seeing that your not yours but our house, the tree fell off, and I saw the pictures of the trees and everything come up
Mhm.
on the site. It's
Mhm.
like this happened around this time. It was really bad. But
Yes.
this year there wasn't any storm. Well, it did rain. We had hailstorms, but it wasn't as bad as
Really?
expecting. Yeah. So you
Okay.
see, when I look back at that, I'm like, oh wow, this is much better than what we were anticipating uh, as of as of last year and this year.
Mhm.
So I'm grateful. Now I think we're
Mhm.
gonna gotta go to the comments here. I'm seeing
Okay.
brother Ed. Hey, peace and one love, family. Saying, I'm standing in gratitude despite the adversity. I'm going through this adversity in preparation for elevation. Man, that is great.
Mhm.
He
Mhm.
says he admires your transparency and resilience, Jen.
Thank you. We appreciate your support.
Yep. Now let's go to the African proverb. Now, this proverb, I'm looking at it from the country of Mauritania, and this is one of the African countries.
Mhm.
Let's get some quick facts about Mauritania. Mauritania is a unique country with a fascinating mix of traditions, landscapes, and history. The Sahara Desert is part of it. 90% of Mauritania is covered by the Sahara Desert, making
Oh,
it one of
wow.
the desert heavy countries in the world.
Mhm.
So it plays a significant role with the culture and lifestyle, especially with the nomadic traditions, because those people move back and forth. They have a rich cultural heritage in Mauritania. Which is a blend of the Arab, Berber, and African cultures, and it's home of several ancient cities.
Mhm.
There's one, the city of Chingweti is a UNESCO World Heritage Site and known for its historic libraries and manuscripts that date back centuries. Now, one thing about these Berbers, they don't like to be called Berbers. They like to be called free people or
Mhm.
noble men. They have amnesia. That's what they want to call.
Yeah.
I found that when I was doing this podcasting. Yeah, you see, when you listen to podcasts, you learn a lot. So they have a unique cuisine.
Mhm.
Their food reflects the desert environment with dishes like couscous, mishu, that's slow roasted lamb, and rice with fish being staples. The country's
Mhm.
cuisine is influenced by the Berber, Arab, and sub Saharan traditions. Now, they also have a slavery history. Now, well, one fact is Mauritania was the last country in the world to abolish slavery in 1981.
Yikes.
I repeat, 1981.
Okay, we ain't
Despite,
gonna tell you who was born in that year.
yeah, yeah. Despite legal abolition, slavery-like practices have continued to persist in some parts of the country, and ongoing efforts are being made to address this issue. This is
Mhm.
real. I've even watched some
Yeah.
documentaries about this.
Mhm.
Yes. So for
Um,
the proverb says, "He who does not have a friend has a mirror. He who does not have a friend has a mirror." Okay, Jen, what do you think about what do you think about that?
oh my god, he does not have a friend has a beard. Oh my gosh. So it suggests lacking companionship. You have a mirror to kind of spend that time with your internal being and depend on yourself because you don't have another individual to rely on and depend on. So you may have to pull that strength and the things that you would seek to another person for within yourself.
But also, Jen, imagine, remember, like Snow White, uh,
Yes.
mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all? She's
Mhm.
asking the mirror, and she's looking at herself, thinking that it's going to change or tell her something else. No, you are what you are, and if you don't have a friend that's somebody different to tell you, hey, Jen, look, this is not the things that we do. These are things that we do it differently. You will always see yourself as being right at all times.
Oh, okay. So,
Yeah, you're looking at yourself. Each time you're looking at yourself, if you're looking at beauty, you're gonna look at yourself as being beautiful all the time.
um,
Nobody else is gonna tell you look otherwise. But if you have a friend, they'll be like, Jen, look, we need to tighten up this thing here like this. We need to, stuff like that. Or as a man, I remember told her you need to shave off your beards. They look kind of tacky. That it's 1965. We don't have afros now. But if I look at it every day, I see myself with an afro since 1965. When will I change?
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're actually redoing that Snow White story, so that's interesting.
yeah. Right.
I heard about that. Yeah.
It had
It's,
some issues going on there.
but you
Like,
know what? It's like, deeper meanings to that story, like all those seven doors, like where it had like a different characteristic,
oh,
there's deeper meaning. So, when you brought up the mirror, mirror on the wall, and of course I'm going to see myself as the fairest of them all. You know what I mean? But okay, I got it.
I had so much fun at Disney World riding that Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
Okay. Look, I
Yeah,
don't know nothing about that.
you need to get yourself over to Disney World and enjoy that. It's kind of cool. It's really cool.
Hmm.
So, some things happened this week. I think we're going to talk about this. George Foreman, remembering George Foreman. So, we'd like to take a
Yes.
moment to honor the legacy of legendary two-time heavyweight boxing champion and Olympic gold medalist George Foreman, who sadly passed away on March 21st, 2025, at the age of 76. Well, that's still young. Well,
Hmm.
not tinkering the age. That's about the age. He died peacefully in Houston, surrounded by his loved ones, and Foreman was extraordinary boxing career, and which included a comeback at 45. Actually, he came back and won at 45 years old, making him the oldest. Right, he was the
Hmm.
oldest. And but we know him famously for two things: Rumble in the Jungle, and then after that, he made money with the Foreman George Foreman Grill.
Right.
Yeah, Rumble in the Jungle, if you all don't know, it was done in Congo. Yes, that Congo. And at that time, he fought Muhammad Ali. And this is very, very iconic.
Hmm.
Jen, it's really fascinating that my mom actually saw Muhammad Ali. He passed through Mombasa, and she actually saw
Really?
him. Yeah, she saw him. Not
Okay.
pictures, but she saw him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then, well, they didn't disclose his death, but he was a
Hmm.
devoted preacher and a caring family man who had faith and great purpose. Now, he gave his sons, this is one of those things that people do, that, the unicorn thing. He gave all his sons the same name, George
Hmm.
Edward Foreman. And he was a proud father of Natalie, Leola, Mishi, and Georgetta,
Hmm.
along with the late Frida Foreman, often shared that naming the sons George was a way to bring them closer together as a family. Wow.
Yeah. I
Did he
thought
have
that was
five
cool.
boys? Five boys, and all of them called George. So interesting.
Yeah, they used to do commercials together because he had like all type of not just the grills, but he had clothing lines and all kind of different businesses. And a lot of times I remember it might have been like the 90s or the late 80s. I remember as a kid he had a commercial with all the boys and they were kind of like making fun of the fact that they all were named George. So it's kind of cool. It's kind of, some people make like it's funny, but it's kind of cool that it's like a way of preserving your legacy. He obviously very intentional that with the naming. Yeah.
So Jen, there's something interesting about that, especially with the word with George. My grandfather is called George,
Hmm.
and all the whole family, because there are about seven of them, so five of them have kids and boys. So each member of the family has a George named on their family.
Hmm.
So when the boys meet up, like when we have a family function, all the boys are there. So when you shout George, you got to be specific which George you're calling. So they
Of
all have
course.
different names. Yeah, because there's George the eldest, which is my brother, because he's the eldest. Then there's George. Then they have George with the second name, which is Mangombe. And then there's George No, who's the third one. And then now we differentiate who the Georges are. So it's interesting when we come and have family gatherings and you
Oh
start
yeah.
hearing names.
Yeah, I definitely wanted to share that because I just feel like that is such a a big family, but his legacy obviously was important to him. So yeah, it's a great loss, and
It
definitely
was
has some
all over.
historic moments there.
Yeah, it was all over the news, and I think it shows about resilience.
Hmm.
When he lost and then came back. I think it took a while before he came back to winning the championship at 45. And I think within that time when he was doing his business endeavors and stuff like that,
Right, right,
he's part of the
definitely.
Houston family of people or citizens, Houstonians.
Yeah, your neck of the woods almost.
3 hour,
Yeah.
3 hour ride over there.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Now then we get into the politics. Well, by the way, I hate politics. I love politics. That's my disclaimer.
And I'm not a big fan of it either, but like it's since the, new president, it's been so many different things happening that you just have to catch up and stay abreast of what's going on because this is affecting so many people. All these, decisions and orders and changes, people are losing their jobs, is, impacting people in so many different ways. So we wanted to do another kind of touch in with some of those latest changes, with some of the orders that your president, your president, has made. So we'll touch on some of the latest regarding the Department of Education.
And the remarks or statements made here are ours and not representative of where we are employed at, and is only for us and what we think about this particular issue. Because they can come for you quick. Like, hey, okay. The Department of Education, the federal workforce. So he
Mhm.
put an executive order to dismantle this department. That's on March 20th, 2025. There was an executive order that was signed in, and the goal was to shift control of education policies back to the states and local communities. I pause with that because it's already being done uh,
Mhm.
right now. Because most of the schools, if not all the schools, have different ways of doing stuff or teaching or everything. Northern schools they experiment and do their own things. Southern schools do their own things. I remember in the New Orleans parish. Well, they
Mhm.
call themselves. See again, the parish. They call themselves. They had this idea of giving these vouchers to the kids so that they could go to like the private schools. They had that
Right.
voucher system. Texas is now trying to implement that voucher system after them.
Mm.
Now, whether it works or not, my personal experience was, well, according to what happened, it didn't work well for some families that,
Mhm.
like ours. Now we're waiting for the one for Texas. I don't know how it's going to work, but I guess they have gone and benchmarked it and then figured it out. So we're looking at the key impacts about it. There's loss of federal oversight and protection. So civil rights protection, which was the main thing for the Department of Education,
Mhm.
against discrimination based on race, gender, and disability might weaken if the oversight is handed over to other agencies, such as the Department of Justice. And they also have a whole big workload on their end, so they can take some of this bulk. So, as much as we're moving stuff, moving these pieces, they have to bear in mind that also you're adding more work to another. Like you may strain another department and form another, form another department in another department to make room for this particular effort that you're doing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's training, but we'll see how it goes. So there's that loss, vulnerable students, that loss of there's that weakening of protection for
Mm-hmm.
race, gender, and disability. Yeah, that's one of the things. And then vulnerable students, especially those of low income families and those with disabilities, could suffer less essential support due to diminished federal accountability.
Okay.
So that's one of the major things, accountability, and then that race and gender, because this is what used to cover for all the stuff that happened. Yes, it was bureaucratic, but it worked
Mm-hmm.
for its time. Number two, funding cuts for public schools. This is major because programs like Title One, which assist schools in low income areas, may be turned into block grants managed by states, risking reduced funding and oversight.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be up to the city to decide what, or the state decide what they want to do. If they don't want to put money in it, that's on you. Um, Special education programs under the IDEA might encounter difficulties if responsibility shifts to other agencies, potentially leaving millions of students with disabilities and underserved, especially the ones
Mm-hmm.
with disabilities. And these disabilities are going to come from, it's not just, people look at the part where physically, no, there's also other parts of disabilities that we can look into that will
Mm-hmm.
be affected.
Yes.
Um, then higher education uncertainty. So federal
Big one.
students who have the student loans and programs like Pell Grants could be reassigned to agencies like the Small Business Administration of the Treasury, leading to confusion of potential delays for borrowers. So remember that shifting we're talking about, moving one
Mm-hmm.
part, one piece to the other piece. Yes, you're trying to save money, but again, the I don't know how efficient it's going to be, but we should.
True.
The public service loan forgiveness and income driven repayment plans will face the risk of restricted or eliminated altogether. Now, this is quite major. I was listening to NPR
Yeah.
today, and there was a boy in California who was talking about he's having to pay student loans. Then they just had the fire,
Mm-hmm.
and he's supporting his family. So, by supporting his family, he has to choose whether he's going to pay the loan or default on it.
Mm-hmm.
And then he had to tell his what you call it, his landlord, that he's asking to be freeze on the rent so that he can at least move some money over to his family to help his family. So these are the situations. I know it's just a one-off, but that one-off represents a lot of people who may not want to shed a light and say, "Hey, I'm suffering." Um, I I don't know whether to add this, but it is so funny that some people would rather suffer because of the current administration that is there. And I've seen this I was listening to NPR about a program where they were talking about their health. And this guy was divorced. But part of the divorce, because he's divorced and there's the healthcare benefits he gets, they were going to be there for him. But he said that even if, and this was before the current administration, he said even if it meant any change, he'd try to figure out how to get health insurance,
For the
but
kids.
fair for him, for himself.
Okay.
It, I think there's a catch to it if you are alone. So he says that to him, it doesn't matter as long as whoever is the president, the current president, he wants the president to be there, even if it means him losing his health care. He'll try to figure it out later. But the whole point is he wants that person in. So with that kind of mentality, really question a lot of things. And remember, that's when I said I hate I hate politics. I love policies.
Okay. Okay.
Then, I'm sorry about that part. I had my rant. Then there's a risk of resegregation.
Mm-hmm.
Decreased federal funding of schools in the underserved areas could deepen the racial inequities and spark a return to segregation education. This one. Have you ever gone to, if you ever go to New Orleans,
Mm-hmm.
and there's LSU, and
Mm-hmm.
uh, okay, there's Suno, there's also Suno, but there's Suno and LSU. So and then there's the state school, and LSU is there. These are two worlds apart, and yet you get the same type of grants and the same type of things, but it's night and day when you go to
Mm-hmm.
and you go to Suno, and this is supposed to be your major, New Orleans major. Um, it's like your flagship university,
Right.
but because of funding, you're not going to see the funding coming through, and you just see the disparities on both ends.
Yeah.
So these are things that will be affected. Um, Administrative chaos, transitioning programs to different agencies or states could result in delays, mismanagement, and
Mm-hmm.
disruption of services for millions of students. So
Okay.
go ahead.
No, I just wanted to frame what you are sharing, just in case someone is coming in the middle. One of the recent changes that President Trump um, uh, has
My president.
your president, President Trump has set forth for us recently, all these different executive orders, right? So we're talking about the one about the Department of Education. So not really sharing opinions at this point, just kind of giving you a summary of what the impacts are. What does this mean to dismantle the Department of Education? This is what it could potentially mean. All these different things that Sambaza is sharing, these are the impacts to the Department of Education. Just want to frame that.
Yeah, and it, this is just one of the spectrums. I mean, I don't know if we'll come back and talk about other things, but this is one of the major things because I think some, if not most of us, have kids or
Mhm,
live in areas where their kids are going to school, and you want the best out of the kids around you, whether you have may not have kids or not. But the thing is, you every kid around your area, you want the best out of them, and you don't want them to end up in some type of difficulty as they're growing up. So part of the being a responsible citizen is to see the people around you succeed. And when you see the people succeed in your area, that means the area around you also succeeds. Because hey, if I live in a place and I'm proud of my place and the dollars I've spent around that area, I think I'm going to come back and spend the same dollars when I come back because I'm proud of where I'm coming from. So this is what um, these things. That's why we're focusing on the education part of it. So the challenges to the implementation. Okay, they want to implement it, and here's the problem: dismantling the department completely requires congressional approval. There's a lifeline, which includes a 60 vote supermajority in the Senate. Without this level of support, executive actions may only partially diminish its functions. Love the American Constitution. Need 60. So whether you have 51 of the votes, you really have to get 60. So that means you
mhm.
have to ask people from the other side of the divide and make it to in order to get that 60 threshold. Um, so, in summary, the dismantling of the Department of Education could undermine educational equity, disrupt funding and services for vulnerable populations, and create significant administrative confusions. Now, there's some legal challenges that are going to come up with that. I'm going to go rush a little bit of this. So, in response to teachers' unions and advocacy groups, including the NAACP, have launched lawsuits all over claiming the executive order is unconstitutional and poses a threat to educational opportunities.
Mhm.
Another thing is that the federal workforce, there's going to be a hiring freeze. Now, remember, a hiring freeze means that an executive order has been issued to freeze the hiring of federal civilian employees in the executive branch, allowing exceptions only for military personnel and positions related to immigration enforcement and national security or public safety. Okay. And there's a delegation of firing authority. A recent memorandum grants the Office of Personnel Management (OPM) the responsibility of overseeing the dismissal of federal employees across all agencies, with the intention of streamlining the process for removing underperforming employees or those of policy influencing positions. Okay, so I think one thing we also note is that I think 116,000 probational federal officers. Okay, let me say this again: 16,000 probational federal workers who were let go previously had to be turned back in and were asked to, you have to re-employ them back again. And this is kind of one of the pushbacks that we're expecting, and a lot is
Hmm.
going to be expected. This is a good
Yeah.
lawyer, man. I'm telling you, they're making money
You
because
think?
go file.
Okay.
The person who's representing, and the person, both the parties, they're making a lot
Yeah.
of money.
Yeah.
Uh, When they move over to these other cases and do this, money is being poured. Well,
So I
that's
guess,
now.
yeah. I know. I'm just going to say, so these drastic changes and rulings that Trump is putting out there, people are pushing back. As you can see, they're saying that this is not what's the um unconstitutional.
Yeah, what are the
Yeah, they're saying it's unconstitutional.
mm-hmm.
So we'll see if that has legs, when they pursue these lawsuits, because he's drastic things that he's talking about doing with dismantling the Department of Education. Like I said, we're not really sharing opinions here, we're just kind of laying out what the intention is, because a lot of it is, sometimes it's kind of hard to make sense of all of it. It's just happening so fast. Like literally, this is from the 20th. That's 7 days, a week ago. Like it was all good just a week ago. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, this is some serious stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it'll be fair to look at maybe the possible counter arguments about this
Okay.
with regard to the issue. I have a few now. Somebody will say, how would you respond to those who believe the local control over education could spark innovation and better meet community needs, ultimately benefiting the students and families? Then another counter argument could be, what do you make of the argument that federal oversight can be overly bureaucratic, creating inefficiencies that hinder the effectiveness of local educational programs and initiatives? Have you considered the perspective that dismantling certain federal structures might actually empower states to craft more tailored and effective educational policies? So these are
Mhm.
the factors that you want to when we look at the argument, when you look at those arguments that were made in the beginning. Let's also look at this, and then after that, kindly just measure both, and then see what makes good on your side, whichever divide you're in. Just look at it and say, hey, okay, this is it, and I want to be fair. So by us trying to be fair, we just decided to highlight what could be the counter arguments for somebody who might be thinking otherwise.
For sure. Yeah, so that's a lot, but
Mhm.
like I said, it's a lot of moving parts, and it's still, up for votes and things like that. So you got to kind of stay with it and stay tuned. So we'll share additional updates. Like this is just scratching the surface at what this means if the department of and that's what he's planning to do, is dismantle it. So this is very well on its way. So all right. We
It's
want
like
to,
it's like what's the next department that's going to go down?
yeah, right? Definitely. So, okay, so related to your president, Trump, we're gonna call this section "Where's my stimmy?" Where is my stimmy? So here we're going to talk about: is there any truth to the rumored $5,000 stimulus checks? I've been in some spaces and people are they already planning. Yeah, I'm gonna get this. I'm gonna buy this. Is it true? So recent discussions have emerged regarding a proposed $5,000 stimulus payment to American taxpayers linked to savings from the the Department of Government Efficiency, also known as Doge. Okay. So when you hear Doge, that is the Department of Government Efficiency. And this is led by your brother, your African brother, Elon
Oh yeah,
Musk.
he is my African brother.
There
Yeah.
you go. President, I'm messing with you. President
No,
Trump.
I mean, hey, he is from South Africa. He was
He
born in South
is.
Africa. That's why he cannot be the president.
See? See, but yeah, so President Trump has expressed consideration of this plan, suggesting that 20% of the projected 2 million in government savings could be redistributed to taxpayers, potentially resulting in the $5,000 per household. However, several factors indicate that this proposal remains speculative. So, savings target. As of now, Doge has reported achieving 55 billion in savings, a fraction of the ambitious 2 trillion goal. So the goal is 2 trillion, and I don't know, coming up short. They coming up short.
So
All
I
right.
think we're gonna come up short too.
Right?
I'm gonna come to like 500. George Bush gave us 500. Was it 500
Sure.
or $200? 500, right?
Yeah, look. That
Hey,
was the
at least that was realistic. But
Yeah.
1,000.
You think? No, let's say. Do you really think it's really gonna happen?
At most, you will get is it will probably happen. Okay. One thing I know about this particular administration is they really want to prove that they really want to prove that if you say this, it's going to happen.
Right.
Now for the 5,000, I'll bet you'll get at least 1,000. 1,000 will be, yeah.
Okay.
They'll up George Bush's 750, 500, 750, and give you 1,000. So there'll be
Okay.
$1,000 put back into the economy, which is good. I'm not going to complain because $1,000, if every person got $1,000. Now, this is also brings out another thing. See, when you have this, depending on which part of the the class you're in, right?
Right.
If you give me $1,000 right now, I'll take that $1,000 and probably put it into savings.
And they don't want you to do that. They want you to spend it.
Right. But now with the other classes, some other people will go ahead and take that money and go and spend it and boost the economy, which is good. It works for its purpose. But for
Mhm.
some other people, different depending on which class you're in, there will be some classes that will just go ahead and take the money and save it.
Right. So that's a good point. Let's see.
So 1,000.
So right, so this will have to be approved. Congressional approval. Any such stimulus distribution will require legislative approval. Key figures, including the House Speaker Mike Johnson, have expressed reservations, preferring to allocate potential savings toward reducing the national debt instead of issuing direct payments. So it may not happen, given the considerations, the concept of the $5,000 stimulus. And this information is actually that I'm sharing about the stimulus is coming from the Telegraph. All right, has been proposed. It remains uncertain and contingent upon governmental actions and approval. So we still got to get approved. So we'll see if we get the 5,000. I would actually be pretty happy to get that right now
Okay,
because
so let's say you get the 5,000, Jen. What you gonna do with your 5,000? Just hypothetically, it's not. Let's see.
look, it's already spent. I just need it.
Okay,
No, look,
what are you gonna do
pay
with it?
down some debts, and obviously, I would try to save a chunk of it, but just really
What's
trying
a
to
chunk?
just, huh?
Please be specific. What's a chunk?
No. Look,
A
the
thousand that you
um,
that you're gonna
okay,
see.
I would say save 1,000, and then the rest getting knocking this debt out. We got to knock this debt out. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'll put 2,000. I put 2,000 into savings. and then use the 3,000 to knock off a lot of the debts. But also maybe the okay, so I'll take 2,000, put into savings, take 2,000, pay up the debts, and 1,000 I'll probably reinvest it into my podcast, my Sambaza Media Group, and
There
see.
you go.
Yeah, so either way, I think it'll be balanced because half will be paying debt, half will be on saved, and then just a small portion is going to be reinvested. So I'll be putting the money back into the economy.
For sure. For
Yeah.
sure. And people have to think about that. And we're have to do another financial episode and bring back our good brother Anthony because, anytime that there is, a little windfall, you really have to kind of think about it. The purpose of it is for it to be put back in the economy, but is that the best thing for you? I would like to have that kind of conversation with someone that's kind of a financial expert, like, okay, before I go spend this money, you know, and just really think that through. So,
Right, because you know, it, it, I remember that song when you said about spending money. The gold on my watch, gold on my chains. That song. It's from Atlanta.
yeah. Yeah.
Yep, that's the song. So some people actually looking to spending all that gold, putting on the gold. But hey, the goldsmiths, they're making money.
True, 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 true. So, we'll see about the
No,
stimmies if we
no,
get it or not.
Jen, but the reason why they put the gold on their watches and their chains, supposedly, this is what I heard. That's an investment. So when they get caught and taken to prison and they want to bail, it's already there on their necks. So
Oh, really?
right, bail
Okay.
money right there. So the value is like, hey, bail money here. And go
All right. Okay. Thank you for
smart, eh?
sharing. I mean, I don't know. It,
Right?
it's
No need for cash. Why have cash? Cash is, you know. So
I know, I get it. I get it. Okay, so yeah, we definitely had a different kind of episode. Wanted to get into some current events and check in with the host today. We do have some good episodes coming up for you guys. Please stay with us. Anything additional to share?
no, no. Actually, I am waiting for April to come through and the rest of the year to come through.
Yeah, you've got some travel coming up, and
Yeah, I have some travel. This is one of the busiest. Actually, this is going to be one of the busiest months, I must say, until my travel. And I think that's when we take a break. No, I guess we'll probably take a break. Or maybe we'll do an episode from
yeah.
probably do an episode from back where I'm at to test this theory that the internet is good in Kenya, because I know people always say, internet is bad in Africa,
Uh huh.
but we'll probably do a test on it and
Okay.
then kind of feature it and see how it works. I was trying to get the Starlink, Elon Musk's thing, the satellite internet
Mm-hmm.
installed, maybe use that, but hmm, who knows? If I get a chance, I'll probably do it.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right.
What about you? What's coming up in the next few months?
Look, just trying to maintain and keep my head underwater.
Jen, Jen. Those are those are no. Have you listened to you need to go listen to Trevor Noah's uh podcast where she
Okay.
interviews this. I keep for Chimanda's. There's a with Chimanda. Maybe you do a search, Google that, and she tells you, don't say, "Oh, I'm just trying to get my head in the water." No, 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 no. I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I'm doing great. I'm sorry, Jen, but I'm doing. We gotta. I think we gotta elevate ourselves. Just the first part. I haven't finished watching the whole thing, but just that first part, the first 5 minutes. I think you want to listen to it and encourage people to go and look at it. Just the first 5 minutes of it. Another another podcast. Let's stop celebrity podcast. There's
Mhm.
another one in Kenya called Dialogues with Jagero. Now, this guy is interviewing an African American who is from another tribe, the Gushi something. They're from Florida. Guys, I don't want to butcher the name, but they they have kept their tribe. But she is in Kenya, and she's bringing people over to visit. Like, you want to visit for fun, or you want to go for medical
Mm-hmm.
tourism, right? So if you go listen to this podcast, Dialogues with Jagero, featuring Wakesho. She calls herself Wakesho. Wakesho Simmons, Simmons. Listen to it in the first 10 minutes of it. If you want to listen to the rest, that's up to you. But just catch the first 10 minutes. And
Mm-hmm.
she talks about herself, the being self-aware. Like the
Okay.
way everybody can't go. Jesse told us the way you
Yeah.
have to put yourself spiritually and mark your boundaries and stuff like that. I think
Right.
if you combine those three, you'll be happy. And this is a challenge. I'm gonna the next week, the next time we come on, I think before we start, we'll have to talk about this. On our beginning
Uh-oh.
part.
Okay.
Hey, we can do that, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, send me those names. Text it to me.
I'll do that, and probably I'll put them. We'll put them on the show notes.
Okay,
Yeah, and
that
then
sounds good. No,
catch
I'm
them.
yeah, I'm game to check out some great podcasts. Shout out to our good buddy Dominic Lawson, his last episode with the coverage of Flo Joe and Wilma Rudolph and Shakari Richardson was really creative. Um,
Mm,
like time traveling is super dope. You got to check it out.
Jen, I'm gonna check that out. Okay, um, link on the show notes as well,
Yes.
and then I'm gonna go check it out. Which is funny. I never realized how show notes are very important. People do check them out, and it's good to have show notes because
Yeah.
when somebody's and I don't know if people, I think it'll become a something in the future where when you want to check out a podcast, like when I was trying to do my thing to look at the podcast, I was actually looking at the show notes. I'm like, okay, what are you about? Who are you?
Yeah.
What is the intention of the podcast? Because you have to give a description of it. And then once I look at it, I'm like, oh, okay, great. This is what you're talking about. Okay, let me look at this and look at that.
Looks,
And there's
I've
some.
seen some show notes that like break down the timeline from this time they're talking about this. Like that's really good. It takes a lot of we're not there yet.
I think
We
I
could if we wanted to, but
descript
oh,
descript
the script kind of does that for you, right?
and then you can have it
Yeah, there's tools out there to help you, put yourself in that model.
right. But show notes
Like
are
a
very
clean, like the same format and just not a whole lot of text intentionally. But we have some things that we want to share. Like I'm going to start trying to include the proverbs and things like that. So trying to be a little more intentional, but just some of the reoccurring things. Um and a little
with,
blurb.
but with the 5,000 character on the 5,000 character words on YouTube, you got a lot. That's a lot of stuff.
Well, and I'm not even talking about use. I'm talking about uploading for the audio feed. The listening for the audio part.
How much characters do they have?
Oh, yeah. I've never
They have a
run
lot.
out. Yeah, you get a
Yeah,
lot.
so I think those show notes do help a lot when you put them in, and yeah. Oh, by the way, um, this is a side thing about podcasting. There has been a great thing that happened to one of the African podcasters. Is called the Young God. It's the Young God podcast,
Hmm.
and Omokachi. I think it's Omokachi. But he- so he had his things on Spotify. Spotify created, and he was talking about some issues about sex and LGBTQ, but he explained himself. But here's the thing: he had put them on pre-notes. Remember, like the way you set up the stuff scheduled. So he had scheduled podcasts to go.
Right.
and Spotify canceled his account
Oh, okay.
completely. All episodes erased, and this is I
Just
think
based
six,
on.
6 years worth of. Yeah, and he tried to figure out what it was, but then he said, "Yeah, I think it was because of what he had talked about."
Mm-hmm.
And yeah,
It
that
seemed
was
like that happened to someone else too.
huh?
That they got. I think that happened to someone else that they got in trouble for, some comment not received well by the public, and they will go and yank everything, just on the strength of the one thing.
Yeah,
So
this
you
was,
have to think about that.
and he's a big time. He's a big time guy in Nigeria.
Hmm.
With his podcast, The Young God. Yeah, that's what it's called. If you do well, I don't know if you'll find him on other mediums, but it has an impact regarding how we are hosted and our freedoms. But
Hmm.
that's another story for another day.
And
I just
yeah,
wanted to
there's a
share
responsibility with that too. Yeah, absolutely. You
it.
definitely have to be, careful and yeah, intentional and think about the accountability. Yeah, absolutely.
You got to read the fine print all the time. Read the fine print because I think
Hmm.
they have it there. As much as it's fine print and tiny, in characters 2 centimeters each. Is it the 2 point? You need to read that 2 point character. Either you need to magnify it and read it all through because I think they put it over there and then subject to
Hmm.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Jen. Yeah.
Okay. Any other
Yeah.
thoughts?
No, that was it. That was my
Okay.
thought, and I just wanted to highlight that. Hope your dog gets better.
Thank you.
ISIS. The
Huh?
dog is ISIS, right?
Yes.
I'm gonna leave it there with ISIS. Hope ISIS
Which
becomes.
isn't she isn't you know what? It's funny they asked me why we named her that.
Yeah, why do you name it that?
It's an Egyptian goddess. Isis, if you look up the origins, the historical origins, it's an Egyptian goddess. And my guy is really into like the goddesses, and he thought that was our other dog that passed away. Name was Venus, which is a Greek goddess. So I mean, he just
Right. Okay.
the thing he's into, and he he had the other names lined out. We knew it wanted to be some kind of god or goddess, or so yeah.
I mean, it is it really is just weird the way we can have one name and then it might be interpreted differently in a different society. So
Right, we all know
you
about the
know,
bad ISIS.
I wonder what happens when you call the dog in public and people be like, you never get those looks.
Oh look, I yeah, I have
No, I mean, you
stories.
don't get those looks. You get those like, wait, why did you name the dog like that? And then you have
Yeah, but it's like
you will
it's
get
other origins and definitions of the word.
right.
But anyway.
Some people don't know. So, like some people are ignorant; they don't know. So when you call it, they think about what is going on, and then like
Right, right.
you know. So yeah, everything has
Yeah,
meaning to it. It's just that some people don't get to study more and figure out some stuff. But that
right.
would be an educating moment for them at that time, I guess.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
But no, she came out of her surgery all right. We just got to pick her up tomorrow. So she's resting comfortably. But
Oh, she had to stay in
yeah,
the
she had to
doggy.
stay.
Wow, that
Hmm.
was serious.
Yeah, and very serious. Look.
Are you gonna do some IG pictures and stuff like that for us to see for the viewers or the viewers
She
people to see
has her
on
own. She has her own social media. So, um,
she has on social media page.
she does.
Okay, then just post it on that and then put a link on it and then we'll go check it out.
I don't know if anybody cares to know about all that, but
Look,
yeah.
no, 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 no. Hey, we're gonna do it. We're gonna get some followers.
Okay.
She gotta
No.
grow up.
Yeah, for
Hey,
sure. Look, doggy branding is a whole thing. Okay. Look, we can get some dog
right.
dog food out the deal. You know how expensive dog food is. especially the one that doesn't have the bad ingredients that will hurt the doggies. Yeah, look.
I noticed that they're moving over a lot of. I've seen a lot of ads going to the natural stuff. There's money there. It's a
Yeah,
business.
absolutely.
You know, yeah, sure, yeah, ingredients here made from fruit stuff, canned stuff, and stuff like that.
Yeah, byproducts. I mean, that's a whole episode about like, the bad stuff that's in certain dog foods. We ain't gonna name no names, but some of the popular ones that you see all the, cute,
Hey,
colorful.
why don't you get a dog person to talk about the dogs, dog food and stuff like that? I mean,
Oh,
your
yeah.
local store, you can get somebody there and say, hey, the one you buy, and then an attendant, and tell them, hey, we're doing a podcast, come and talk about it, and they can educate people about their dogs and stuff like that. That'd be cool.
Thought. That's a thought. Okay, we'll kick it around. I don't know how woke that is, but we'll.
I mean, it will resonate to the dog lovers out there. I'm a dog lover. I just can't keep a dog right now.
Okay.
But I would love to hear about the new things that are coming out for dogs and cats.
Mhm.
And hey, let's see about the dogs first.
Okay, that's a
Um,
thought. All right, well, we'll kick it around. We'll kick it around. All right.
right. Yeah.
Well, we appreciate you guys for tapping in. If you made it this far in the episode, please like and subscribe. We appreciate you joining in with us. Consider sharing it. Our collective awareness and advocacy play a crucial role in creating positive change. I really believe that. And we invite you to stay tuned for more engaging content. We look forward to continuing the conversations about all the things. Sambaza, any additional thoughts?
No, Jen, I think this has been a great week. I've had a great conversation today. I think even though it's just the two of us, I like it. We have not had this chat before. Hopefully, we can have those IG lives again to recap a couple of things that have been going on and engage the people over at the IG. Which brings up an interesting thing. We're trying to get somebody to talk about the way we're cross pollinating with other mediums and see how it makes a difference with our podcast. So we're looking for somebody who's going to be coming. Hopefully, they'll be coming to the show and talk about this very soon. So that's going to be our possible guest in the future. And with that, I think Jen, we can wrap this up and take
Okay.
it home. Yeah.
All right. Sounds great. Well, we again thank you guys for tuning in and stay tuned again for the more engaging content. And we will continue these conversations. We appreciate it. And you guys take care.